So it's just been a catalogue or a build-up, you know. I think when you got to a stage where it's what's the point?
It's a perfect storm of things, isn't it? And I'm glad that you recognise that it's not just rent reviews and things that have been brought in by the Labour government, that it's been a sort of creeping thing that's happened over years and years. Presumably, if you were in a better position as a business, then paying higher wages to your employees wouldn't be such a problem.
Yeah, it would be. I think the problem you have in government, I love the politicians, but I think they actually lack creativity, business creativity. You know, if someone started with the problem first, and looked at that, and then went backwards, they probably might have had a chance to find a solution. And, you know, I think they're probably, it sounds strange thing to say, you're probably like sort of marketing people rather than, you know, people who are used to things and wasting money, you know. If an example, like, you know, I think there's such a star of many people about if there was a delivery version for the high street, not just doing goods, the council created something on the website, and then the income stream for them, the exercise onto that, brings footfall to high street, they can get delivery service within the postcode. And I know I was told that it's too expensive, but the government and council don't have a problem when it comes to collecting fines, sophisticated ways, like parking fines and that side. They can invest money in that side, you know. So I just think if they've got a little bit creative, you know, I think that would be best choice rather than just increasing this antiquated rate system, which now makes up to 50% of the price and pound of your rent.
Wow, okay. So do you think that has it got to a stage where do you think you and your brothers will jack it all down?
Yeah, I think we're starting to reduce down now. We're lucky that we invested in building a portfolio. I really worked hard. You know, if I said to you, you know, when I was opening shops, I would stay for the whole night. You know, not sleep. Right? You know, my father before nearly went bust. My mother worked really, really hard. Right? And all of us, we put in, you know, good. On average, we worked about 75 hours a week.
Yeah.
You know, because it's constantly on you. You know, and when you're responsible for over 200 staff as well, when you worrying all the time. And then I think, what was it all for? You know, when you're being grounded down. You know, now on top of that, if you are successful, then we're being forced to pay more tax, right? And that's ever increasing. So I'm just looking at the overall picture and I think to myself, you know, and we now I also have a separate business where we export to different countries. And a lot of Europe has the same issue as well, not just the UK. You know, they have these issues, but with all the issues in America, they are more entrepreneurial, they're more supportive of businesses or startup businesses, where people do more than one job, you know, countries with this way.
I dread to think what impact the tariffs are going to have on a lot of small business owners over the US. But I take what you say about the entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you so much for your call. If you want to call me and tell me what your favourite gift was that you ever got that didn't cost anything, 03456060973 or cost very little. Because I know New York Times article that listed some of the things that people received that they've remembered forever. Very often the things that they were gifted in childhood and they're adults now and they still remember them and they cost 0p or close to under £10, under $10 because it's American. If you have an example of that, 03456060973 is the number to call. Lots of text coming in on this. Will says, I would recommend picking up bits and pieces throughout the year for birthdays and Christmas and storing them in a cupboard to avoid pressure. Using local shops to stop making billionaires more wealthy is also good for the soul. Top tip there, Will. And then Natasha Tracy says, I add a note in the Christmas cards to the older neighbours with an IOU for a household of 10 children. Love that. Absolutely love that. So stuff like that, I think is absolutely brilliant. 03456060973 is the number to call. It's 5,000 headline Good Day.
Analysis of the latest Jeffrey Epstein files to be released in the United States is showing nearly 700 pages have been entirely redacted. President Trump's being accused of breaking the law by two politicians because full disclosure of the information is in their requirements. US officials are saying it's seizing a vessel off the coast of Venezuela. It's been circumstances of the operation being run on the US Coast Guard. The major investigation is underway after a 55-year-old man was shot dead in northwest London. Officers were called to Stonebridge at about 9:30 last night. LBC rail rain and strong winds for Wales, Northern Ireland and southwest of the UK overnight. And with drizzle for the rest of England. Scotland facing a low of around 5 degrees.
Dental clinics with over 5,000 top-rated Google reviews. Keep on smiling.
There's an old Thai saying that roughly translates as, the family who takes the internet on holiday can locate a less crowded beach. Particularly handy, my friends, if it's peak mating season for nippy little crabs. Pack the internet with an eSIM from Airalo. That's AIRALO.
For people living with dementia, Christmas can be confusing, overwhelming, heartbreaking. Families are often left to cope alone. But you can help a family reimagine Christmas. Donate to Alzheimer's Society and you can help provide practical support, expert advice and crucial companionship this Christmas. It will take a society to beat dementia, and we can't do it without you. Search Alzheimer's Society and donate today.
Big Tasty is back at McDonald's, but now it's a double. Big Tasty all-time holiday. The new double Big Tasty at McDonald's. Available between the 4th of Jan 2026. Limited pay. Price and participation may vary, subject to availability. This is LBC with Natasha Cover. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84855.
A couple of texts coming in being quite unkind about our caller Kieran, who was saying, you know, I've worked really hard, I've got a very successful business and doing various other things, had a property portfolio, and was complaining about the amount of tax he had to pay and paying minimum wage amongst other things. And whilst I understand the sentiment, and I get it that, you know, nurses and teachers and refuse collectors and everybody works hard. Pretty much everybody works hard. And I understand the aversion people have to hearing people say, I work hard and therefore I deserve all the money in the world. I think in fairness to Kieran, the point that he was trying to make is that the billionaires that are hoovering up all of the brands, something like 100 of the world's best recognized brands are owned by 4 companies now. And the billionaires that own those are not doing any of those things. Very often are very creative with how much tax they pay and pay less tax than smaller business owners, are not treating their employees well, are not doing any of those things. So it's almost like the smaller business owners are being punished for not being Jeff Bezos or, you know, anyone else that you can think of that owns a huge multinational business. So I understand the resentment that would be felt there. I don't think, therefore, it should be a race to the bottom and the government should go, okay, well, we just allow small business owners to pay their employees 1p an hour and treat them really badly and not have to pay any tax. But I do understand the frustration that is felt. I can understand why it feels like a targeting. And I can also understand that as much as we are trying to celebrate the fact that a lot of people are choosing to have a simpler Christmas and not to spend so much money this year, if you work in retail, if you work in hospitality, that must be pretty worrying. So tell me how this Christmas is different. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. Before we return to that conversation, though, I did promise you that we would keep returning to Sudan. It does not get nearly enough press coverage. People don't know enough about what is happening in that part of the world. We've had experts come on and speak before to give us a basic understanding of why this displacement and plausible genocide is taking place. But I wanted to bring you an update because there have been some drone strikes which have meant that there are blackouts in Khartoum and Port Sudan, and it's an escalation of the civil war that's happening there. Joining us to discuss this is Kholoud Hare, who is the director of the Confluence Advisory, which is a think tank founded in Khartoum. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So can you bring us up to date with what is happening where you are?
Hi Natasha, I'm currently in London, but I speak to family and friends in Sudan very often. And there are two sort of areas right now where people have a lot of worries. One of them is the northern central part of the country, including the capital, and a town north of the capital called Akamba that was plunged into darkness just 2 days ago when the RSF sent drone strikes there, hitting telecommunications towers and hitting electricity pylons. That's a tactic that the RSF have used several times in areas controlled by the Sudanese armed forces. But the other area, which I think is probably facing a lot more, worry and threat, is the southwesterly Kordofan region, in particular a town called Al Ubaid. It's a historic commercial town, very, very wealthy, and it is also under potential attack by the RSF, according to the UN, within the space of just a few days. The concern there is that what we saw in Al Fashir and other parts of the country where the RSF have committed mass atrocities may also happen in Al Ubaid.
And the United Nations have raised concerns. The Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that this targeting may constitute war crimes under international law. Why do you think more isn't being done to ascertain whether or not war crimes have been committed?
I think often those processes take some time, but it's also true that the world has changed. I mean, 20 years ago, when we saw similar sort of violence in Sudan during the Darfur genocide, the US Secretary of State at the time, Colin Powell, merely announced at the UN that he believed that genocide was taking place, and not too long afterwards, the whole world got together and formed a peacekeeping mission in Darfur that was heavily supported by the African Union. 20 years ago, if you said the word famine, which is endemic in parts of Sudan today, you would have had an international response being put into gear that is very well funded and is holistic in terms of treating the causes of famine. This time around, we don't see that. Genocide has been declared even by the Biden administration, which was very slow to react. The Trump administration has not rescinded that genocide determination still stands. We have seen, of course, the violence in Al Fashir just in the past few weeks, as well as elsewhere, and famine has been declared in many parts of the country, including just last month in Al Fashir town itself. And yet we have seen that the UN response has been very, very poorly funded. We have seen that there is no serious talk about the protection of civilians, certainly no concrete decisions made around the protection of civilians force. And the world is now, unfortunately, and we have seen this in other contexts, including Palestine, very much tolerating this idea of violence, severe violence against communities and even genocide. That's the world we currently inhabit.
And so there's a lack of international will to take action on this. Does it help? I've seen lots of people who are sharing, for example, All Eyes on Sudan memes on their social media, or doing little videos trying to give a background of what's happening, or signposting to charities that are bringing aid to the area. Does that kind of thing help to put pressure on governments when the citizens are noticing, do you think?
It does, and actually I've spoken to many decision makers all across the board, in Europe, in North America, particularly the United States, in Africa and elsewhere, and public pressure absolutely does work. So I think the more we see of that, the more we get Sudan brought closer to the top of the international priority list, and serious discussions can then take place about responding to the humanitarian crisis, as well as, of course, responding to the protection crisis. The fact that we're seeing the highest levels of sexual violence in the world, the fact that we're seeing the highest number of out-of-school children in the world, the highest number of displacements, etc. But I think what really works here is for people to give to not just the UN and INGOs that do a lot of humanitarian response, but to emergency response rooms and mutual aid groups. These are groups that have been nominated for the Nobel Prize twice, have won a handful of international prizes, because they are at the forefront of the humanitarian response, and they give so much more based on them funding that they get back to communities. These are volunteers in the communities. They never left, and they are effectively providing safe haven, food especially, and other sort of inputs to their communities, and they can be donated to pretty easily online at mutualaidsudan.org. And Christmas is a really good time to really give to causes that matter, but also that deliver in the world's largest hunger crisis.
Thank you, Holly Hare there, who's Director of Confluence Advisory, which is a think tank founded in Khartoum, but she joins us from London this evening. Let's return now to our conversation, having had the world put into perspective for us. Let's return to our conversation about what feels different about this Christmas, and also about whether you are having a simpler Christmas this year and whether you think that might be something to celebrate. Anne has called from Leicester. What would you like to say?
I'm Natasha, so I run a digital marketing agency, and digital marketing is quite a good indicator of what's happening in the economy, because of course people invest more in marketing when they want to grow their businesses, and also we do a lot of work with e-commerce businesses, so a lot of their customers are consumers, and I think what's happening is, although people weren't really necessarily going to the shops, they have been buying a lot online, so we're expecting this quarter's figures to be quite good, and depending on what sector you are, but we have had a really bad year. It's been really tough, and I don't actually put it down so much to what the Labour government have done for us. I think it's more supply and demand. We've had a lot of businesses that maybe their costs have been going up, and maybe they had a tough year, so consequently they're not investing as much in marketing. And I guess that's the same for the hospitality industry. People aren't going out, if the costs are going up and they can't make the extra money, they're not going to be able to cover their costs. So a lot of it is supply and demand in my opinion.
Do you think it could be AI as well?
Well, interestingly, we have invested a lot in AI. We're quite advanced in what we're doing with AI. So we've been, there's three of us within our agency together, and we've been spending huge amounts of time in training. We even do AI courses, we build voice agents, we do lots of stuff. But the UK are incredibly behind. It's quite scary in some respects. I think our team has spoken to about 3,000 people at conferences and things about how to use AI. And actually, the UK is a bit slow compared with other countries like India and America. So although everybody's scared of AI, and it's definitely taken some jobs, it's not really hit yet. And I think that's going to happen in the next 2 years.
A lot of people are saying that, although I have also heard from people who work in AI that, well, first of all, that there's a suggestion that there's been an exaggeration of how much AI can accomplish to encourage investment, and also that it will always have a percentage of error rate, so you'll always need humans to double check the work that AI is doing. Does that match what you're understanding?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely this concept of human in the loop, or humans checking the work, and there's lots of tools out there now that actually can do huge amounts. I think people underestimate the power of AI, and a lot of the time when you get problems like, it's called hallucination, when they basically make stuff up, it's because people aren't experienced enough to learn how to use it properly. The concept is that if you don't know how to prompt, then rubbish in, rubbish out. But the scary thing for a lot of people is that it's going to affect quite a range of different types of jobs. So it's definitely, I think, impacting graduates, but I think it's also going to impact a lot of people in things like copywriting, quite a lot of middle range marketing type jobs and white collar jobs. But I think we're a bit slow in adopting it, which is problematic because of course other countries aren't. But the other thing that's really interesting for me observing everything that's happening is minimum wage is irrelevant to us because our staff are so highly skilled. You know, we pay so much more than that. But also, another thing that's weird is that a lot of businesses in our sector are hybrid or working from home, and actually it's quite difficult to bring in the new graduates. So a lot of the unemployment, I think, in the more junior roles is a sort of legacy from COVID and how it's more difficult to train people, and some of those jobs are quite easy to use AI for. So that's definitely going to have quite a big impact going forward.
And thank you so much for your call, and it's definitely something that we return to, why we are seeing so many young people unable to find employment, I can tell you, is not because they are lazy or entitled or work shy or just want their mum to make them crumpets every day, all day, and live in their bedroom. There are so many bigger and more important and urgent reasons than that. But for now, that's not the discussion that we're having. We're talking about, is this year different? Are you struggling more as a retailer, or if you work in hospitality, are people spending less? 03456060973. But we're also having quite a fun side discussion, and lots of new texts coming in on this about presents that cost nothing. And this one I really loved. This is from Andrea on 84850, who says, when my daughter was in year 4, which is 8 or 9 years old, she wrote a little story and sent it to her 1-year-old baby cousin. That little story is still remembered very well now, even 15 years later. See, this is what I mean. So much more meaningful than a bit of plastic rubbish ordered online that would be almost instantly forgotten. So what's your favourite present that you've ever received that cost nothing or very little? 03456060973, or you can text it on 84850. Time is 8:46.
On LBC, the Consumer Hour.
I'm Dean Dunham, and for the next 60 minutes, you've got me answering your legal questions.
Consumer Hour at 9. Listen on our free Global Player app or the new LBC app.
Merry Christmas, my love.
Merry Christmas, Mom.
Merry Christmas, Daddy. Happy New Year.
From the UK's first mobile phone call to the first text, we've been connecting you and Christmas since 1984 on Vodafone, the nation's network. The Nations Network, Vodafone UK, supporting the nation since 1984. Learn more at vodafone.co.uk/TNN.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard your flight to Geneva. This is your captain speaking, and I would like to take a second to welcome our very special guests, all the skiers and snowboards that enjoy a free flight to Winter Wonderland.
The best skiing experiences start with the right airline. Book your winter holiday now on Swiss.com and enjoy free gear transport.
Waitrose presents, and the main event. One cook learns that love doesn't always shout. And for me, sometimes it whispers. Starring succulent #1 free-range turkey bauble, wrapped in dry-cured beechwood smoked bacon, with cranberry jeweled pork stuffing and orange glaze. Thanks.
Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Subject to availability and delivery slots available to order online in stores from 19th of December.
This is LBC. Message Natasha Devon on WhatsApp now. 0345 6060973.
It's 8:48. James says on 84850, my partner and I have been together for 22 years. We have no kids and seem to spend more and more on Christmas each year, to the point it's getting ridiculous. However, money is tight and our flat is the largest to keep accumulating things we don't need. We have enough stuff and decided this year to actually stick to a much smaller budget and get things we actually wanted. This will leave enough money to get some nice food and go out and see our stays over the next few weeks. It does feel so much less stressful. See, this is what I mean, the inspiration for it is the cost of living is not what I'm living through. And yet, the stopping and thinking and going, do I actually want to do this? Does this actually bring value to my life? Do I need this? Can we do something meaningful? Is the silver lining. I'm not saying the cloud doesn't exist. I'm saying that there's potentially a silver lining. Got a first-time caller, Matthew from Bexley Heath. What would you like to say?
Hi, Natasha. Yes, I'm just picking up on your conversation about small businesses and the struggle they're having this year. I've been running a business for the last 5 years, a media-based business, and ironically, it's all about supporting local businesses in our county as well. And sadly, this week we've been forced to close and cease business. It's a very sad the process between the councils and the government valuation office. For us, we moved into new premises in August 2024, and when we did that, we got the planning changed to make sure that we were non-retail. Failed to revalue our unit that we were being worked in 15 months, and they put it down. Their response was it's delays due to COVID, that they can't get round to revalue it. And as a result, the council have been continuously trying to charge us rates which are more than big multi-million pound high street brands for something which is not retail. We've been taken to court multiple times. Even the judges are not understanding why this is happening, because it's black and white that the rates are wrong. But everything's been ruthless. And it gets to a point where, as a business owner, it gets very stressful. It affects your family, it affects your life. And you just go, why are we doing this anymore? And I've spent the last 5 years working with small businesses. About 3,000 businesses have been through our organisation. And we hear the same story over the last 12 months. The struggles of, being able to get by day to day. And I think, I know I was listening to a previous show, Natasha, for which they were talking about, club closure. And the valuation office again, and the business rates. And the process at the moment with the valuation office is that rates are based on the location and the size of the building. It has nothing to do with your revenue. And all the time the business rates are going up and up and up, but your sales and revenue is going down. The model isn't going to work. We're going to see more closures, we're going to see more businesses leaving the high street. And it needs to be looked at quite urgently. And with the latest budget, I don't think it's over the issue. From January, I need to find another job. I've been running businesses myself for the last 17 years, and I've literally been over the last 5 days creating a CV, which I've not done for 17 years, but to be honest, it feels a little bit like a weight off my shoulders too, because when I first started running my own business 17 years ago, I enjoyed it. It was refreshing. I've employed about 80 staff over that period of time. And it's hard, over the last 12 months to let people go. And really kind of, shut down what, I had a passion to do from day one. But would I start a business again today? Would I advise anyone to start their own business? I would say no, don't do it. Everyone tells you be your own boss and stuff, but there's too many risks to that.
That's such a shame, Matthew. I'm really sorry to hear about what you're going through, and I wish you all the best of luck with the job hunting come January. John has been from Milton Keynes. What would you like to say?
In terms of myself, we're a small dental hygiene business. Things part-time work, especially sibling cases, sort of starting to stop. Starting again, yes, I did manage to impact 3 hands. I'm doing okay, and I've got back to work shifts or 3, but I almost feel that in this country, especially in England, we're sort of punished to do business, to be an entrepreneur. And when I speak to friends and family, they have actually moved to different and it's sort of encouraged to do business there. And it just feels like the work we do business here and the opportunity I have there is just totally different.
So how is it encouraged to do business in other countries, whereas it's not?
Encouraged to do business, and it's
communities, the doctors, the nurses, everyone's not going to their high street to buy from their local businesses. So it's a difficult line to tread, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we're close with sort of care homes and, everyone's place. It's difficult, Everyone's going through a hard sort of time. Obviously, I'm very fortunate, I'm much better, a lot of people, so I don't know to go down that one. But yeah, in terms of doing business, it's pretty much, I know that people sort of couldn't come up with, was it Kieran he mentioned? He's absolutely right, I agree with him. To do business, it's hard work. And what the other really is, it's not just about yourself, you're trying to change for other people as well. When you have that version of people working for you, you will do the best you can for them.
And that's the thing, it seems to be the business owners who don't have that attitude of wanting to make life better for other people that are being actively rewarded in the global market. I'm not talking about the UK now, but I'm talking about the global market.
Yes.
And so I can understand where Kieran's coming from, I can understand where you're coming from. John, thank you for your call. So I did ask for this perspective. Faye has been in touch on 84850 and said, as a parent of 4 children, I seem to have made a rod for my own back, always overgiving a huge amount of presents. And now as they're getting older, they still expect the same, so it's really hard. I do reduce it, but I find that there's lots of pressure. I get really strict with the presents and then panic at the last minute and think that they're going to be disappointed. So I think there's big pressure when you have children and with families and friends. I don't really want anything. There's nothing I really want. And then I feel compelled that I have to buy them something because they're buying me something. And I just wish we could also say, let's not do presents. Then you don't feel like you're really in the Christmas spirit. Faye, there are so many people listening who relate to what you said there. So thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at your situation. I just think it's so wonderful the way that you described it. So thank you so much for sending in that text. Oscar has called from Glasgow. What would you like to say? Oscar, we've lost your line. We'll try to get you back on the line. In the meantime, let's have a look at some more texts. So Maz in Oxford says, good evening, Natasha. For Christmas, I like to buy one special present for each grandchild and my children and partner. Presents for the hosting house and a present for me. And a sharing present for the whole assembled family for fun and entertainment. They don't have to be flash, just well thought through. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think a thoughtful gift is so much better, more powerful, more memorable than, just getting someone something because you feel like you have to. And I completely agree with what they said, where you just wish you could say to your friends, let's not do this year. Or just, you spend 20 quid that I would have spent on you on something that you really want, and I will do the same. Assuming that you have the money, you could say, why don't we just agree to each get ourselves something that we really want? But then you do feel that maybe you're not in the Christmas spirit. This from Sharon, who says, example of a gift that costs nothing. My mum had 3 girls and not a lot of money. We couldn't afford a Christmas tree, but she was inventive. She got a branch out of the garden and sprayed it white and put a few decorations on it made out of foil. I have never forgotten that Christmas. Wonderful, what a wonderful story. Thank you for all of your contributions to that hour. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on our free Global Player app or the new LBC app, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news and opinion, put your news categories in the order you want, pause and rewind live radio, and listen to a range of podcasts. Download the all-now new official LBC app for free from your app store now. I am back next Saturday, so I will catch you on the flip side of Christmas on 10 at 10 it's Nick Abel. Now it's time for the Consumer Hour with Dean.
Thank you, Natasha. Online retailers have discovered a new product they can sell to consumers, and they've made significant sums from this over the Christmas shopping period. The problem is, it's totally unlawful, and anyone who has been lured into buying this product is now entitled to their money back. I'll explain in detail about this in the next hour. I'll also be answering more legal questions, so if you have a legal issue and you need some help, give me a call now on 0345 6060 973 or text 84850. I'm Dean Dunham, and all of that is coming up next on the LBC Consumer Hour.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
charges, including articles of impeachment against the Attorney General. LBC's Washington correspondent Simon Marks says the optics don't look good for the Trump administration.
I think we're going to see enormous pressure now in the weeks ahead, and a game in which the White House continues trying to kick the ball into the long grass because most people will presume there's something in there they don't want to release to the public.
4 people have been arrested after the death of a teenager following a road collision in Bradford. 18-year-old was driving a Fiesta which crashed into the garden property in the Officials in the US say its forces have stopped a vessel off the coast of Venezuela for the second time in under a fortnight. President Trump has already announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers coming in or out of the South American country. The action's being described as a consented border. A police sergeant's been sacked from the Metropolitan Police after being accused of a serious sexual assault. The force says the gross misconduct allegation against Leo Bontempo has been proven. Court cleared him of raping a woman while off duty in November 2022. Prince William has followed in the footsteps of his late mother by taking his son George to a homeless charity in London. The big building to prepare a Christmas lunch at the Passage in Victoria. Its chief executive, Bill Parker, says the choice was poignant because William went there with Diana, Princess of Wales.
There's a lovely moving moment when George signs the visitor book on the same page that you saw his grandmother Diana sign, and William hangs around George's age sign, and that was terribly moving.
And Lebanon says it's close to completing the disarmament of Hezbollah south of the Litani River. The country is still trying to meet a key demand of its ceasefire with Israel, a deadline at the end of this year. LBC weather, rain and strong winds for Northern Ireland and the southwest of the UK overnight, cloudy with drizzle for the rest of the week, dry and slippery.
Is for guidance only. You should always seek your own independent, legal and financial opinion. This is ABC Global, leading Britain's conversation with Dean
Good evening, everyone. It's 9:03 p.m. Saturday, the 20th of December. Anyone listening to me normally will know that on Sunday evening, this evening, of course, I'm covering for Daniel, who is on a well-earned rest. So, if you have a legal issue, it's exactly the same as what you do on a Saturday night with Daniel. But the only difference is there's 2 differences here. One, please don't call me about matters. Save those for Daniel when he's back, which, by the way, is not next week, but I'm covering then it's the weekend after. some form of insurance, of course, and if you have a house, you should have insurance and so on. Insurance is often a good thing. But the reason why I am highlighting this evening is this, in my view, is totally unlawful. Now, the reason it's unlawful is because the law, the Consumer Rights Act, there's two sections here. One is section 28. That section says that unless you agree otherwise, or you don't when you buy online, the retailer has an obligation to deliver the goods to you. And as you know, that's the normal default position. And section 28 also says they must do so within 30 days, again, unless they've told you it's going to be longer. Now, the next section that comes after that, section 29, this is the important one here, because that says the goods remain at the trader's risk until they come into the physical possession of the consumer, unless the consumer has said, leave my goods in a safe place or leave them with a neighbour. Let me pause there for a moment. Please never say that. Never tell a retailer that you're happy for your goods to be left in a safe place. And the reason for that is what I just said. Unless you do say that, these goods are at the risk of the retailer, it's within your hands. So why would you let them off the hook? Just tell them, I'm not in, come back. You know, that's what I want you to do. So let me bring this back to why I'm ranting and raving about this so-called insurance for delivery. It's because you do not need it if the goods are damaged or if they are lost whilst they are in courier's possession or whilst they're in transit from retailer to you. You are automatically entitled to either a refund or replacement goods. So why pay for an insurance policy for it? Totally unlawful, because you cannot sell a consumer something that they already have the right to have or to do anyway. And I'm just giving you the classic example of that and why this product needs to stop. Now, as I said, some of them are going on to say, but if you buy this insurance, we will deal with your complaint about your goods being damaged or being delayed more swiftly. Now, that is a fine line here. They may well be able to argue that they are giving you something for your money there. They're going to deal with you quicker than they'll deal with the average consumer that would come to them. They may get away with that. I think it's bad practice. They may get away with that. They should not get away with it. But here's what I'm telling you, sir. If you have bought one of these insurance policies recently, go back to the retailer and say, I was entitled to that anyway because of Section 28, and more importantly, Section 29. Therefore, I want my money back, please. If they say no, you pay them with debit and credit card, just do a chargeback and get that money back, because they should not have done that. And again, if they say no, please report it to your trading standards. I'm going to take this up. I've been looking at it, looking at case studies. People have been telling me their stories about it, and this is terrible. It's wrong. I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but I think you understand where I'm going. Look, retailers have a hard time. We heard that in the last one. All businesses are. But consumers are as well. They should not be harmed. This, in my view, is something that should not ever be happening in the scenarios or the circumstances that they are. So anyway, let's get your calls. Colin, good evening.
Good evening. I do my shopping at a well-known high street store, and they have a scheme that if you have one of their store cards and you don't want to leave a day, you get 10% off the bill. Pensioners, you hand them the card, they put it through, and they push a button and give you 10%. I done my shopping this week, and when I checked my bill when I got home, a couple of days later, I thought, there's no 10% on this. When I phoned their customer services, they said they can't give you a refund. It's the store's fault. But the only way to get it is to take all your shopping bags, they re-put it in the store through the till, recharge you, and then put the 10% on it.
You're joking.
And I said, hold on, I've opened some of the stuff and eaten it.
That is ridiculous. So, Colin, obviously they are accepting that you should have been given the 10%, yes?
Yes, because I've got the receipt, and an old receipt, and it says over 60s discount.
Go back to them and say there was a clear offer of 10% discount. I was enticed by that offer, that was important, and therefore I made my purchasing decision to go along get a discount. I did not get it, and I was entitled to it. And then tell them that under the Consumer Rights Act, where there's any form of breach, this is one of those situations. Consumers should not be inconvenienced, and of course, it would be a great inconvenience for you to have to go back to the store with all this stuff, which you can't do anyway, because as you say, you've eaten some or most or all of it anyway. But say that to them, and say to them, under the Consumer Rights Act, if they want you to do something, they've got to pay for it. They have to send a taxi to you, help you back with all the shopping. You see where I'm going with this? They can't just say, oh, no problem, come back and we'll deal with it. They can't put you out of pocket, they can't inconvenience you. Colin, if you go back and start saying Consumer Rights Act and inconvenience, I might want some compensation for the inconvenience as well. Trust me, they will find a way, miraculously, of giving you your 10% discount. It's as simple as that. You just need to tell them that you know what you're talking about. You know your rights. If you do that. Yeah, please do.
The thing is, with these cars, many luxury customers have got them. Apparently, the car doesn't define whether they over the age to get the discount. It's up to the checkout operator to look at you, and they know me on the top of their year rate. Yes, you're over 65 or 62. It's not a car decision, it's the checkout operator.
So Colin, are you over 65?
Yeah, I am.
So do you think that the person on the checkout didn't realise that and didn't press the right button?
I think he pushed the button but didn't check whether it had gone through.
Oh, I see. In either event, it's not your problem, is it?
No.
You didn't do wrong, they did wrong, they'll have to do something. But in my experience, when a supermarket does wrong like this, normally they will come back and say, yep, okay, we'll do something for you. Normally that involves a voucher. And I don't see why they won't come back to you and say, here's the equivalent of 10% discount in the format of a voucher. I mean, if they did that, would you be happy with that, Colin?
Yeah, because I said, well, why can't you do it? And then they said, well, you have to follow the email it to us, and then we will stick the cash on the card you have. And I said, why should I do that? It wasn't my fault.
Well, I can understand them asking you to photograph the receipt because they will need proof. So I would do that because they've got a legitimate reason to say no, you don't do that. But it sounds like they are going down the road of saying, okay, we will do something for you. They're doing the right thing. Colin, you do have to send them the receipt because that's what the law says. When you return goods or if something's wrong, you have to prove purchase.
Can I not take the receipt into the store and say I didn't get it?
You can try that as well.
Take it off my bill.
Yep, you can try that as well. Ultimately, they've got to do something, and whatever they do has to be the equivalent of that 10% discount. You may say, I don't want a voucher, I want the cash equivalent, because that's effectively what I would have got had I paid it 10%. And that's a good argument, it's a legitimate argument for you to run, because you thought you'd be spending less money.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Colin. I hope you get what you want. I think you will. Don't forget, by the way, tell them, Consumer Rights Act, make sure you say that word inconvenienced, and why not just drop in for the sake of it, word compensation. All those things, I say this in my Sunday show all the time, these are the buzzwords. If you use these buzzwords, retailers, supermarkets, traders online, they don't like any of these words. And if you then go on to say, well, I'm going to take my complaint further, they really don't like those words either. And often you'll find if you use any of those words or hear all of them, you will get what you are looking for. Here, Colin, you want to get your 10% discount in cash. I think you'll get it. More of the calls and texts coming up next here on the LBC Consumer Hour. You're listening to Dean Dunham and the time is 9:15.
This is LBC.
Hello, I'm a National Lottery scratch card. You normally see me in the shops, but you know where I'd really like to be? Round yours at Christmas. I'm a great Christmas guest. You can use me as a festive place second for a bit of fun, and you might even win a few quid. At the very least, I'll distract Uncle Dave from saying something inappropriate.
Buy a National Lottery scratch card and add some play to Christmas. Gift responsibly. Rules and procedures apply. Players and gifters must be 18 or over.
Gift more for less when you shop with this Christmas. Up to 70% off RRP on over 60 of their favourite designer brands, including Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, Le Creuset, the cosmetics company
Store and Lindt. Ticked everyone off your list? Start the festivities at one of our 30 bars and restaurants. Enjoy a movie or get competitive with bowling, climbing, interactive football, indoor skydiving and more. Find us in North Greenwich, just 15 minutes from central London. Search Outlet Shopping at the O2 to start planning your visit.
Dean Dunham on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
If you just tuned in, you're late, but if you are late, I'll tell you that this is Dean Dunham. I'm covering Daniel Barnett this evening, bringing you an additional LBC consumer. So if you have any legal issues, any legal problems at all, and you need some help, give me a call now, 0345 6060 973. You can WhatsApp your question to exactly the same number. You can text 84885. Go straight back to your calls. Judy in Newcastle is not home.
Yesterday, Mr. Chandler was an email from a different company, a very well-known delivery company, saying that my parcel was on its way and would be expected today. So this morning I went to my computer and I looked at it and it said parcel delivered at 11:16 a.m. And I thought that's strange. And a great big note that I left on the door saying ring the bell, use the door knocker. I was waiting from 8 o'clock this morning, not knowing whether it would come or not. And this was by the time I then looked at my computer, it was midday. So I thought that's really odd. I went to the door. I thought maybe they've left it outside. Nothing. I looked all round. I looked at the side of the house. Nothing. And I can't get back to the people who were meant to deliver. And I can't get any response from the people I bought it from. What do I do?
Well, you would have heard me when I was having my excited moment about this online insurance, delivery insurance, that Section 29 of the Consumer Rights Act says that goods remain at the risk of the retailer or the trader, whoever sent them, until they're in your physical possession. Now, we now know, because the law that means they have to show a photograph of the door, your front door open, and usually you in shot or your feet in shot. So they can't do that. You've confirmed that. That means you are entitled to a refund or replacement goods, whatever one that you want. If they're not responding to you, the next thing to do is to consider, how did you pay it? Debit, credit card? How did you pay for this?
Credit card.
So you could go to your credit card provider and make what's called a chargeback claim. Not Section 75. You can do that as well, but chargeback's better when it's so close to when you purchased, because they prefer it and it comes back into your account almost instantly. Now, what you'll be saying to your car provider is, the goods have not been delivered. I cannot get hold of the company. They were supposed to deliver on a certain day. They didn't. Therefore, Julie, these words are really important. There's been a breach of contract. Because where there's a breach of contract, you ordinarily will have a valid chargeback claim. The money will come straight back into your account. Your car provider will then start chasing this company you bought the food from, and you won't have to worry about it any longer. That's the easiest solution to this.
Thank you so much. The reason I phoned, because I switched on late, I'm so sorry, I joined the programme a bit late, and I just heard you mentioning, but I didn't hear the whole of what you were saying about this Section 29.
No problem. Judy, many people don't know about this, and what that means is that the retailers, the traders, they can pull the wool over the eyes of the consumers. A bit like what I was saying at the top of the show is they are now selling consumers insurance to say, don't worry, if goods go missing, if they get damaged in transit, you'll be covered if you buy this insurance. Many people don't know that they can't do that, so don't worry about calling and asking that question. Of the Consumer Rights Act.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck, Judy. You will get your money back. Make sure you keep pursuing it. Ahmed in Woodford. Good evening.
Hi there. Just a quick question regarding and I asked him what type of discount or negotiating, and he went down to 2,400, and that was for carpet and underlay. And I paid for it on there and then. Then the 2 days later, I looked at the carpet and I realized I already bought that good underlay, so I called back to cancel the underlay. And so on the invoice that I've got, it says that the carpet is 2,000 and the underlay is 500. But when I've asked for the refund, they called back and said we're only going to give you £190 refund rather than 500. You know, because we gave you lots of discounts, we're only going to give you 190, not the full 500. So am I entitled to the full 500, or are they correct?
Well, that's novel on their part. It depends. Let me first of all start by asking you this. I assume that you didn't ask them if you need underlay and they said yes and they were wrong. This is a scenario where you just thought you needed it, but you were wrong, yes?
Yeah, because he came to the house and he measured all the rooms on his own downstairs, and he came back and he quoted it all together.
Okay, but he's not pulled your carpet up to have a look underneath.
No, I'd imagine he has.
Okay, the reason I'm saying that is if he had, then you could start saying, well, under the Consumer Rights Act, you have to provide your service with reasonable care and skill. And by the way, providing they quote is still a service. So if they quote you something that you didn't need, they've not done that with reasonable care and skill, and on that basis you can get all your money back. But it seems like that's not the position. Okay, so the next thing is you order this carpet and underlay over the phone or on a website, or do you go into a shop to do it?
No, I went to the shop and then they said they sent someone out to measure the rooms. And then when he gave me the price of 3,000, he said, I have to raise down the I was the regional director, but the problem you get, like, you have to buy it now. There's no, like, tomorrow, you have to book now.
Now, here's what I'm asking now. So we've done it online. We're saying, well, what are the law for consumer contract regulations? That's what's known in short. And under those regulations, unless something's bespoke, under a carpet would be visibly cut, but sometimes underlay is only cut on site. Therefore, it's not bespoke at the point you buy it. And in those circumstances, you can say, actually, I've changed my mind and have all my money back. And you're entitled to it. But because you've gone into the shop, if you've made your decision in the shop, and that law doesn't apply, and that means you don't actually have any legal right to a refund because I'm there'll be in accordance with their own terms and conditions. If that's the case, they can come back and say, well, we'll do something for you, but we're going to give you less money than what you paid for it and what we've quoted you for it. They're entitled to do that, unless, of course, as I say, you bought online. But it doesn't sound like you did. It sounds like you made your decision in the shop, and that's the problem. When you buy in store, you've got to be certain that you're whatever it is, because you can't just change your mind unless they're to officially say that. Now, I mean, I would go back and try and negotiate with them. In my experience, when you go back and negotiate with retailers, they are having a hard time. They don't want to lose customers. Often they will negotiate with you. Go back and try. But unfortunately, in the facts as you've described them to me this evening, I don't think the law is going to be on your side to get this full refund, because I can just turn around and say, you can have the underlay. So go back and try and negotiate. Aisha in Berkshire, good evening. Aisha, are you there? I think we may have lost Aisha. Let's go to David in Wembley. No problem, boss. Let's go to a text message. Hello, Dean. Dave here from just to say, thank you. Call centre was not very familiar where you are. By the way, that means alternative dispute resolution. But the onward must have been a red flag. Put me through to the back office, all sorted. Dave, thanks very much for telling me about that. Let me just say, because obviously I don't normally do Saturday nights, one of my buzzwords is often ER, alternative dispute resolution, or ombudsman, because in my experience, I've been a lawyer, by the way, for 25 years now. I know I don't sound old enough, but I have. In my experience, when you say any of those buzzwords to a trader, they treat them very differently, and they decide, actually, we better give a remedy here or engage space with them, whatever it comes to the correct person and give him a refund. It's always a good correct present with him. Now, let's hope this phone's working again. So, John in Wales, good evening.
Hello, Dean. Can you hear me okay?
I'm loud and clear. What's your question, John?
Super. Long time listener, by the way. First time caller. Thank you for all the hard work. Big airport car park for many years, and then I went to spend them. They are a monetary value, and I couldn't spend them. Contacted them by email and phone calls. They said there's a bug on my account, so set up a new account, give them their new number, close down your own account, and they'll transfer the points over so I can use it as normal. Now they're saying, now that's happened, they're saying they can't transfer the points over to the new account because the points have expired, which been adding points all the way throughout the year. So I don't know what to do.
So, John, is this a situation where the points do expire? Do they have a shelf life? Sounds like a major.
Well, I actually took a screenshot, and I've got a screenshot, but not the whole account, unfortunately. Just before I deleted it, it was saying that they were still active until 2028. So as long as they keep using the account, the points stay active.
So what I would do is I would go back to them and say to them, look, my understanding is exactly as you just described it. If you think otherwise, please show me your terms and conditions that say that they expire. And please tell me why this screenshot I got, tell me what's wrong. Because as a consumer, I was led by that, or maybe misled by it, and say to them that the reasonable consumer, more buzzwords, they're important, the word reasonable is really important, the reasonable consumer would have thought exactly the same as me, that these do not have a shelf life. Had I have known, I may not have carried on being a loyal customer because I've been enticed, another buzzword, by the points. If you say all of those things, I think they will think we've got a problem here. Because we've got a consumer that's saying they've been misled, and it sounds like you have been. Of course, I've not seen the screenshot, but from what you're telling me, it sounds fairly straightforward. It's fairly clear cut. Let me give you an analogy. People fall into this trap every year around about sort of March, April, where they say, I got given a gift card and it's now expired. I didn't realise it had an expiry date. They do, but often they're written in quite small text on the reverse. Now, for some time, retailers were having to honour those even though they had expired, but now they're a lot more savvy with this. They know they've got to make this prominent, they've got to make it clear. So if this company does have an expiry date on these points, if it has not made it clear to you, and in fact if it's done the opposite, it's led you to believe there's no expiry date, which is what you're telling me this evening, then they are going to have to honour these points and remove the expiry date and keep giving them to you. That's what they're going to have to do. It's clear as day. The buzzword for you here, by the way, is to go back to them and say, look, if you don't give this to me, I'm going to go to the local trading standards and tell them that this is an unfair practice. They won't like that, John. I think you'll find you'll get those points back very, very quickly. Do let me know if that doesn't work, but I think you'll find that it will. Aisha in Berkshire, good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your question, Aisha?
Yes. So I have to tell you a story, backstory, before I can ask the question.
All right, don't make it a long story, will you?
Okay, no, I wouldn't. So my car has been going for maintenance at a dealership maintenance service for the past 6 years. In August, my car went in for service, and then after the service, it prompted me to top up oil like 3 times within the space of 5 weeks. So I called the garage and asked for them to recover the car, but they didn't. They sent some people that they couldn't. Anyway, the technician came and said, it's because the oil has been lower than the 1 liter it keeps pumping. And he said the car was good, and I told him we were traveling. He said it was fine. So we traveled, came back. Next day I wanted to go out. Started the car started making some noise. So I called the garage to recover the car the next day. They recovered the car, said they did that, they gave me a bill for 4,000 pounds. I asked them to go ahead to fix it. So they did the work for the car. And then when they were test driving the car, they started leaking oil again. So they were going to charge me an extra 2,000 pounds because they had to take us down the stairs and put it back. Anyway, they called me the next day and said to me I should come in. I went in and they said the car engine block was cracked.
The car, sorry?
The engine block is cracked. So basically the car is undrivable. I can't drive it. We have to replace the engine of the car. The engine of the car is going to cost 16,000.
Wow, by the way, I've got to ask this question. How much was this car in the first place?
About 28,000.
Well, I mean, the repairs are costing you nearly 28,000. I mean, I'm not going to topping this up, but you said 16,000, I think, 4,000.
Yeah.
Wow, this is unbelievable. So where's the car now? Is it still again?
The car is still the same. It's undrivable since October. And it's 2015.
What? Oh, so it's not even really that old.
No.
And is this the same garage you purchased the car from or somewhere else?
No, except somewhere else I purchased the car from Northern Ireland, but the garage is close to me.